I assume he's on.
Progress is set on myself.
Recording is started.
Thank you.
All right, good. Good evening and welcome everyone to the Berlin Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Today is March 4th, 2021. The meeting is calling to order at 7:02 in the evening. But before we continue, I just want to make sure I get a roll call to see which of my regular members are here so I can see any alternates at this time. Maureen, can you just call out the roll call?
John Michael O'Brien. John Michael. Absent.
All right.
George Miller.
Present.
Diane Joycey.
Here.
Timothy Zigmat.
Here.
Brian Rogan.
Here.
Joan Beely.
Here.
Steve Wallman.
Here.
And then I'll go to the alternates. Peter Zarabozo.
Here.
Andrew Legnani.
Here.
Andrew Legnani.
Here.
Thank you. Steve Biella Jr.
I'm here.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Because we have a commissioner absent, which is John Michael O'Brien, I would ask to be part of the alternates. I would ask Andrew Legnani to sit in on the meeting for John Michael. Andrew, are you up to it?
Sure.
Okay, terrific. Thank you, Andrew. All right. What do we have to do? Because this is what would you like me to read?
So we'll just announce that the meeting, may I do it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So announcing that this is the Berlin Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of March 4th, 2021, beginning at 7:00 p.m. and it is accessed by remote access only through WebEx conference, video, and telephone conference call.
Okay, terrific. We have a scheduling of public hearings. We have a proposed amendment to the Berlin zoning regulations of Timothy Sullivan Esquire for a new section 11DD, planned residential infill development, which has a suggested date of April 15th, 2021.
So move.
That is Commissioner Zigma.
Yes, sorry.
Okay, Commissioner Zigma is moving to place that on the agenda.
I will second.
We have a second by Jorsey, Ms. Jorsey, and further discussion. Then all Zigma?
Aye.
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 Do we have any commissioners opposed? Hearing none, it is scheduled for the 15th of April, 2021. Item B, consideration of a multi-family housing moratorium for the town of Berlin. This, I had originally thought we were gonna put it into a public hearing date, but I think we need to retrieve more information from staff regarding this proposal for moratorium and for the reasons why. And I'm going to ask that we hold off, scheduling that for a public hearing at this point.
Move it, can we move it to commission business?
All right, you want to move it to commission business? So, Maureen suggests that we move it to commission business at this point for discussion. So, do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
All right, thank you, Ms. Jorsey. And do we have a second?
Second.
All right, second by Mr. Rogan. And discussion on that, so all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any other commissioners opposed at this time? Hearing none. Okay, going on to new business, commission business, which is discussion of the 2023 plan of conservation and development. As you know, a couple weeks back, we talked about the POCD and how every 10 years we revisit it to see if it aligns with what the town is looking for and what we could possibly do to help improve the town, development of the town, controlling the development, and so forth. We had decided, I guess, some time ago that we would actually do this not by the complete complement of the Planning and Zoning Commission spearheading it, but rather representation from several of the land use departments such as inland wetlands, conservation, economic development, and planning and zoning to all gather together and to start to work on the project. I believe that was in conjunction with what the Planning and Zoning Commission was looking for. All right, is representation on the committee that would be spearheaded by the people on planning and zoning. So looking at that, a couple things that have come to light, and I had thought about this some time. And I do know that we're looking for other representation. And I feel that just with the flavor of the commission, that we have some very talented people here that would serve the panel well, which meets once a month, from what I understand, once they get going, in helping us with the direction of the town and helping define areas that we can use some help. Maureen, did you have anything that you wanted to add to that, or do we want to?
Just make a clarification that the advisory board, which is what we termed the board in for past plans, POCD reviews, is the advisory board is actually established by the town council forming it, from what we've discovered. And so the recommendation of a couple of members on it, and what other boards, I think what we're looking for, and from the history, is that the Planning and Zoning Commission actually make a suggestion as to who forms the board, but then it gets blessed by the POC, by the town council. I also want to note, in regard to the POCD conversation, I was preparing some other items dealing with the moratorium question. So Jim Mahoney is also on the line and may have some more information with regard to the POCD to offer and give some information tonight, if you'd like to.
Fine. Mr. Mahoney, are you with us? And I don't know.
Thank you.
All right, Jim, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Oh, okay, yes. You're faint, but we can hear you.
Can we have you hold on 1 second?
Sure.
Or can I just remind anyone who is not speaking to please mute your microphone? And in addition, each time you speak, if you can unmute yourself and announce who you are that is speaking. For the record, it's pretty hard on these recordings to identify voices. But we do have several people that are not muted. They might be on the telephone. You might have to mute your telephone. And that would help because we are getting some feedback, at least at town hall.
Thank you. All right, Jim. Mr. Mahoney, do you have some thoughts about this plan of conservation and development?
Thank you. Yes, a few items. One is in terms of the committee. Again, we had 7 members last time. As was indicated, we would think the committee would be established by the council at recommendation by the Planning and Zoning Commission. I think we discussed at the last meeting 2 P&Z members, possibly 1 town council member, 1 from EDC, 1 from conservation. That would leave 2 others. And I don't, we'd like to know if you have any specific recommendations of commissions that ought to be represented, whether it's wetlands, or also whether we ought to reserve the last 2 slots for citizens, and also whether you have any specific recommendations, which you don't have to provide tonight, but you could provide to Maureen subsequently.
Okay. Terrific, and thank you. All right,
Couple of other items, Commissioner,
yes.
Chair, on the POCD generally. One is that we have worked on a request for qualifications for consulting services, and we recognize that the town also needs to provide an affordable housing plan by the middle of 2022. It seemed like it would be prudent to have both of those tasks done at the same time. And so therefore, we incorporated that into the RFQ. And again, this is just RFQ means request for qualifications. And, you know, we'd like your blessing to go ahead and issue that so we can start the process, because basically what we'll do is issue the request for qualifications, see the qualifications, shortlist, get proposals, see proposals, and then interview and select. So this is step one, and it will let us get started. So with your blessing, we'd like to issue the RFQ. And the last point I would make is that we have been working with Kevin Fitzgerald, was an intern with the Planning and Zoning Department in the past, and we brought him back on board. And Kevin's working with us on data for the Plan of Conservation and Development. And Maureen and I have been coordinating with him, so we expect that he'll present some reports on data, because we think that everybody should start out with, you know, a good understanding of what's happening in the community, the information, you know, statistics and characteristics of the community as a starting point for the POCD. So we thought it'd be good to jumpstart the process to have the data work done ahead of time. So Kevin's working with us on that. So having said that, if you give us the blessing, we'll go ahead and issue the RFQ.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, do you have any comments about this? Or discussion, because this is a discussion.
This Commissioner Zigmont, I would volunteer to be on it. And also make a motion that, what was the name, Kevin? Or put out the thing for a consultant, sorry.
All right, so you're volunteering. Are there any other commissioners at this point that are interested? I mean, I know that I have a certain perception myself, in the sense of who I would like to see on the POCD committee. I myself have thought about Diane Jorsey, because I think he would be an excellent applicant, in the sense that you deal with the farming regulations and you do work with the state and DEP. So I think that your knowledge is just immense, and it would really help the town. So I would hope that Ms. Jorsey would consider that. I also have been very impressed by our newest member, which is George Millard. And I think that he brings something fresh to the table that's untainted. And I think he has a good grasp of how things work in engineering and the way the future of the town should go. So I would also ask Mr. Millard, or Commissioner Millard, to consider the position as well. I myself would love to be part of it. I know Tim has now voiced his opinion, so we have 4 people on the table, but my recommendation is I hope that those 2 commissioners would give it some serious consideration as to whether or not this is a challenge that you would like to take on. Of course, I cannot talk for the time that you have available, but I think that you each bring something very unique to the table that would help the town. So those are my thoughts, anyway. I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts about it.
Sure. I would support those 2 people as well being on the board. I would agree with their qualifications.
You guys have really, like, the cream is floated to the top, you know?
I would also be open to be on the board. too.
Yeah, I think we all would like I think we'd all like to have something to say on it, and I'm not sure how that will work or how it plays out in the long term. But I do think that this is very near and dear to all of us who are on the commission. And so it's gonna be a tough choice, and but those are my thoughts on it. Anyone else out there? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Dorsey. Oh, sorry.
Go, Diane.
Thank you. I appreciate the confidence that you're expressing in my ability, and I'm happy to serve on the committee if I'm so chosen.
Okay, great. Thank you, Diane. All right. Well, I don't want to put anyone else on the spot or anything, but that would be basically, and I'm not sure, how would we work this if there's other commissioners that want to get involved as well? I mean, I know Mr. Mahoney was saying that there's pretty much an outline as to how many members can be. Could we serve as, onlookers, or I'm not sure.
If this is Maureen, if I might interject, and Jim can, he's been through the process with the town twice before, so he has some inherent knowledge that I don't have. But I think that could be the opportunity, or rather the commission could be assured that those that aren't participating on a monthly basis at the smaller scale meetings or work sessions, well, I'll call the advisory committee meetings work sessions, would be getting regular updates at the commission meeting for input with regard to the direction. All meetings are public meetings. Others can come, and the topics, generally established, or, what the focus is at any particular time on an agenda for those advisory committee meetings. As with any committee meeting, they have to be posted and noticed as to the fact that they're meeting. They, in normal times, meet in town hall and, as a group, but it otherwise would be a published WebEx meeting, or the like. And the one thing to keep in mind when dealing with a committee is you do want to keep the number manageable so that the conversation remains productive, and the goals are met at a meeting, and you don't have too many people in the room, trying to accomplish a single goal, but want the diversity.
Let me ask you a question about the public setting though. So for those commissioners that are not selected or whatever to be on the committee, if they should choose to attend the public meetings, would they be able to address concerns, or would they strictly be observing?
Joan, can I say something? This is George.
Yes, go ahead, George.
I mean, I served on the Charter Commission a couple years ago.
Okay.
So there's two ways to address it, I think. Well, three ways. Maureen touched upon one. Whoever does serve on it can certainly come back and put an item on the planning and zoning agenda to give an update and tell you what's going on. Second, the way the Charter Commission worked was there was, similar to a town council meeting or whatever, there was an audience of citizen at the beginning of every meeting. I'm not sure they'll do that here, but that's certainly a viable mechanism to get input from others. Thirdly, and what we did on the Charter Commission is we, at points in time where we needed input, it wasn't done in a vacuum. We would invite other people into the meeting for specific purposes. So we might bring people in from, we had, like Director of Finance come in, and, we had other people come in to address the commission with very specific agenda topics, and that's doable too, to leverage the expertise of the planning and zoning in the areas that need input. So that's all up to that commission, but that's how we function in the Charter Commission.
Okay, terrific. Thank you for that, George. All right, well, we have different options available. Now, when do we need to make a selection, or when do we need to make a decision on this?
Well, this is Maureen again. I think one of the things we want to stay focused on is forward progress. You don't want to, clearly we wouldn't want to rush the commission into making a recommendation to the town council. Similar to the commission, the town council meets every 2 weeks. So getting onto their agenda in a reasonable period of time is also pretty easy to do as an agenda item. But we don't want to drag it out because it is a lengthy process to write up a POCD and get the new product produced. It's a document that studies the town and the town's comprehensive project. So we want to make sure that we stay on track, but certainly as staff, we wouldn't want to rush the commission to hastily say, oh, we got to decide this second when if you're not ready to decide. So we'll keep it on the agenda as something that you can, a goal maybe next month, our next meeting. What do you think, Jim, as far as timing goes?
Yeah, I would say that, as a goal to make a decision and that at the next meeting would be great. And I would also say in terms of, participation, that first of all, all the reports I'm sure will be going to the Planning and Zoning Commission as well. So everybody be kept up to date in terms of progress reports and drafts. Second, there's going to be obviously an outreach process with the Plan of Conservation Development, public hearings, focus groups, things like that. So there's other opportunities for input. And lastly, I would just say, we'll see how this one goes, but the last two POCD committees, they ran the meetings rather informally. And, so they didn't, we weren't operating by Robert's rules, and, the people in the audience were allowed to participate in areas that they were interested in. And, obviously if we have lots of people and the meeting can't flow, that would be an impediment. But, with the goal, I think if it can operate on a basis where, everybody there has an opportunity to participate, that would be the optimal situation.
I concur. That's great. All right, so why don't we just,
Commissioner Rogan, other than the 2 seats for planning and zoning and the seats that I'm sure from the other commissions that will be selected by their commission, issue still remains about the 2 remaining seats and what to do with them from another commission or the public. Does anybody have any thoughts on where we want to fill those?
as far as, you mean, other commissions other than planning and zoning and economic development and wetlands?
Mr. Mahoney said there were still 2 more seats that we had to fill, whether they be from the public or another commission. If we're going to be voting on our own seats next meeting, I think we should also have a good idea on where to outsource those 2 seats to.
Okay.
Commissioner Zarabozo, yeah, I agree. Perhaps someone from the Conservation Commission should be considered, and I guess maybe somebody from the Economic Development as well.
Yeah, I think economic development and conservation was already taken into, folded into the formula.
Okay.
But thank you for pointing that out, because I knew there was one commission as I'm scribbling notes that I had forgotten, so conservation is.
Maybe we can recap what the thought process was for the last rounds. There were, I have it, or maybe Jim, you might have it actually in front of you. I have it on a page as to who that was.
EDC, Conservation, Planning and Zoning, Town Council, ZBA. I think then we had 2 citizen members. I might miss one of those, but that's pretty much what it was.
Okay. All right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Inland Wetlands Conservation Council, ZBA, and also a citizen at large. You know, I thought about that citizen at large, and I thought it might be, I'm not sure, but I'll throw his name into the ring, would be Dennis Kearns if he's interested, because Dennis, going back through the years, used to be a planning and zoning vice chair, and I believe chair at one point. Then he went over to the land trust, and he does a lot in conjunction with conservation. And he has a good understanding and overview of how these pieces all sort of puzzle together. And I think he might be another participant we may want to reach out to see if he's interested. Again, these are folks that have poured their heart and souls into the past POCD. They may want to revisit it, or they may say, hey, you know, I'm not at this point in my life, I don't know, but we want to reach out to them and see if they're interested or honored. But anyway.
Dennis Kern was on the last three committees, so he probably wins the prize already.
Yeah, he's you know, he's pretty level-headed, and he has some good ideas. So, but anyway, that's my thought on it. Anyway, yeah, and it's gonna be tough because I think planning and zoning all wants to be active in this. So I have to try to figure out how do we get a happy medium here. But anyway, all right. So we'll leave that all where it is, and we'll revisit this next meeting, and hopefully we'll come to a decision that everyone can agree on and be proud of. Okay? So let's move on to
One thing, Joan, before we move on, if we could just make sure that everybody's okay with issuing the RFQ to get the process started for consultant selection.
oh
We
yes,
good with that?
of course. Yeah, okay, so the RFQ, and I believe that Commissioner Zigma, going back to when he was volunteering also to be on the committee, that he had mentioned that he wanted to move forward with the RFQ. Tim, did I misinterpret that, or am I on target?
Yes, I made a motion to do that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, say it again, because I couldn't hear you, honey.
I said I made a motion to do that, RFQ.
So you made a motion to go ahead with the RFQ? Okay. And
I will second that.
all right, second by Ms. Dorsey, thank you. Any further discussion on that?
Roll call.
Yeah, go ahead. You can roll call, Maureen.
Okay.
Per vote.
George Millard.
Aye.
I'm sorry. Okay. Diane Jorsey.
Aye.
Tim Zigma.
Aye.
Brian Rogan.
Aye.
Joan Veely.
Aye.
Steve Woolman. Steve Woolman.
Aye.
Thank you. And Andrew Legnani.
Aye.
Is that
All
right?
right, yep,
Okay.
that's right.
I'm sorry for my mispronunciation of any names.
You're fine, you're fine. Okay.
No worries. I've had people mispronounce my name forever.
Bless your heart. Okay, so, the consideration of the multifamily housing moratorium,
Yeah.
did you want to talk on that? Because we kind of added that, we moved it from scheduling public hearing under commission business. So Maureen's just gonna address the commission on that.
So I want to just address a number of items and the reason you found it on your agenda, and then we're asking you to move it. So we thought when writing up the agenda that we'd have the information to distribute with it. And as we continue to work on researching the format and process for the moratorium or a moratorium and determining the scheduling of the public hearing, we realized that we have to reconsider that process. And we want to be able to properly outline the process, the format, and the reasoning for the Planning and Zoning Commission and why you're seeing it on your agenda. So what we've discussed to propose tonight as a staff is that we provide you an overview of some of our concerns that have prompted us to make this request for the commission to consider the moratorium. And then if you concur with us, then you provide the go-ahead for staff to proceed with preparing language. And in that language, we'd include considerations for projects that are already in the works, as well as the duration of the proposed moratorium, all within the text amendment. And draft, to go along with that, a report with more specific information that you could so you can understand where this recommendation is coming from when you go to schedule the public hearing. And all with the lofty goal of having that done next week for distribution in the next agenda package. I guess I need to see whether I can proceed with that, with giving you some of that reasoning for the moratorium, and then direction as to whether that's what you want us to proceed with.
Okay, commissioners, any questions?
So this is George Miller. I'm trying to understand what the impetus for this is. Who's proposing the moratorium? Is it your department, Maureen, that is suggesting the moratorium? Is that where this is coming from? Okay.
Yes, it is. So that's what I was asking for permission to proceed with, why we are why the staff is recommending the moratorium and asking to proceed with developing the language and spending the time on it. So with that question, I'm going to proceed, if that's all right.
Can you just give us like the high level bullet points real quickly, a couple of three reasons why?
I think I have 7, but
okay, just the most important ones.
I'll go really quick. We've recently had a rapid and significant increase in the approved and proposed multifamily rental projects after recent zoning amendments, including the Kensington Overlay Zone, which was 2016, and the Berlin Turnpike Development Zone, and the Workforce Housing Development Zones. So that has resulted in quite a number of units, and the majority of the proposed and approved multifamily units are not in the vicinity of the Berlin train station, which was what was envisioned for multifamily units in the last go around of the POCD. The analysis kind of ties into the fact that we're advancing into the POCD process, and the concentration of those multifamily units on the Berlin Turnpike, and which was not envisioned or not specifically recommended in the last POCD. And then the issues that we've noted, some of the issues we've noticed as we've analyzed some of the projects that have come forward, which includes the scale, mix of commercial and residential, lot size, and some of the other issues that have come to light with the BTD zone and those specific developments. The affordability aspect as to whether the wording within our regulations aligns with the ability and goals to count affordable units, and how that might tie in together, not just with the zoning of, say, the BTD, so that not to just look at the BTD, but to look at multifamily in general, which is why the suggestion is for multifamily units on a broader scale, and to update those regulations to meet with that. And just as a kind of wrap it up kind of sentence, if we look at the numbers of units that we have potential for, not including the potential 300 units, I think it doesn't include, maybe it does include, one being the potential 300 units that are under appeal right now, or the zone changes under appeal that could potentially allow for it. We have a total of nearly 900 units, which is a 10% increase of our housing stock in multifamily. So it's a fast growth. It's not, a little percentage of growth. It's a big portion of our housing, all in newer units. And I can run down some of those numbers for you if you want.
That's good. Thank you.
I think most of you probably know the projects. Some of the newer members may not realize what the projects are, but.
So we just basically want to get a handle on this before it gets ahead of us.
Right.
And we want to be able to define which way the growth is going to go, because, we basically want to be able to rein it in if necessary. So it just doesn't run away on us, and then we don't find ourselves regretting as we go on that certain things have happened. So I think the moratorium, or the discussion on moratorium, is just basically to help us take a look at where we are and how we want to see the town develop moving forward, So that's why the proposal is there. Are there any other questions or?
This is Commissioner Zigmont.
Yes, Tim.
I know if you put a moratorium in, any application that's been on the books cannot be in that moratorium. You can't stop a project after the application's been put in. So it would be any future applications that you were putting a moratorium on.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I probably glossed over that sentence as I was trying to shorten my description, but yes, so one of the things that we'd be putting into the language is consideration of how to limit the moratorium so that it focuses on the project at hand of study, but doesn't but allows for the legalities of anyone who's in the process, and at what point in the process, what is a pending application, us checking on that language before bringing you the language that we hope to prepare within the week for you. That would make that consideration.
Yeah, I think this is probably a good step. I think it's a correct step, and I think it gives us a chance to, as I said, evaluate where we are and what direction we want the town to go before it all runs away on us. Mr. Woolman, did you have something that you wanted to add to? It looked like you were ready to chime in. No? Okay. All right. Terrific. Any other comments?
Sorry, John, I'm having some difficulties with my microphone, but no, I didn't have anything to add. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I don't want to leave you out of this, Steve. All right. Okay.
I think that's appropriate because of the
Yeah.
remote access. That makes sense to make sure everyone is on board by having
Yeah.
a
All right.
motion for the staff to proceed with preparing.
All right. So
On
we're
the-
looking for a motion for the staff to proceed at preparing the moratorium and the language for us.
I will make that motion, Commissioner Dorsey.
Thank you, Diane. Do we have a second?
I'll second Commissioner Lignani.
All right. Thank you.
And I'll read the roll call if that's all
All
right.
right.
George Miller,
Aye.
Diane Dorsey,
Aye.
Tim Zigmont,
Aye.
Brian Rogan,
Aye.
Joan Veely,
Yeah, aye.
Steve Woolman,
Aye.
and Andrew Lignani.
Aye.
All right.
Excellent.
Terrific. Excellent. Thank you, guys. All right. Moving on to the new business.
Yep.
Okay. We have a site plan amendment of Estates of Berlin LLC for modifications to the grading of phase 5 at lot 41, block 133-107, Beckley Road. Do we have anyone here to address the commission regarding this application for consideration?
Sure. My name's John Wagenblatt. I'm a principal of the LRC Group, 160 West Street, Cromwell, Connecticut. And also here this evening is Jeff Resper, the owner, Mark Carrihan, a project manager, and Rich Reynolds, an LRC engineer. If I may, can I share the screen? Maureen?
You got a little fuzzy there right at the last sentence. I'm sorry. Could you repeat what the last thing you said?
Can I share the screen?
Oh, yeah, let's have, Adam is running the screen. So Adam, can you set that up so he can share?
It should have passed to you. You should have got an invitation to share, John.
Okay, thank you.
You're getting a little bit of feedback there, John. I don't know what from.
While he presents, I'm going to mute the town hall and just remind everyone else to mute and unmute if you want to speak.
Okay, thank you. What we'd like to discuss this evening is raising the Phase 5 site on an average of approximately 7 feet. What we're finding during the course of construction of the other phases is that material has been stocked and brought over to the area of Phase 5, and we're finding when we went out, probably in the summertime or so, when we were just trying to do some staking for some blasting that was approved, we were having some pretty heavy cuts. And we realized that a lot of fill was brought in over time, and what we'd like to try and do to try and mitigate having to remove it off site was to use it in place. Like I said a few minutes ago, the average elevation change is probably about 7 feet throughout. Some areas it's less, some areas it's more. And basically what this will do is along the eastern edge of the property, and keep in mind, this is where the Mattabasset
John, can I interrupt you for 1 second? Are you sharing a map, or do you think you're sharing a map? Because we've got your list of plans on our screens.
Oh, I thought I was, sorry.
Just so you know that we're not looking at a map.
Okay, that's not good. Let me try this one more time. How about now?
No, we saw what you clicked, but we don't see that on the screen.
John, are you on 2 different screens? John, are you on 2 different screens?
No, well, actually, I am on 2 screens, but.
So we're looking at the screen where you have the index, but we're not looking at the other screen where the map is.
It's just it's an image. Well, tell you what, Maureen, can you bring the Phase 5 on the? I'll stop sharing.
Oh, hold on 1 second. At the bottom of your screen, there should be a share button. Click share and then select the PDF viewer. I think you just selected the wrong item to share.
Whoa.
How's that?
Wow, that's much better.
Excellent. That's exactly, I think, what we were looking for.
All right, it's not quite the one I wanted, but it's gonna work. All right, this map in front of you is the whole development. This is the Phase 1 areas, Phase 2. This area along here along Scenic is Phase 3. And this area on the bottom, this curved area is Phase 4. Phase 5 is the the condo area. This is the clubhouse. Hopefully I can zoom this up. There we go. And as I was saying, we would like to raise the site by an average of 7 feet. And the biggest changes is going to be along the eastern edge, the eastern boundary. This is the area where it's a town of Berlin land, and this area over, this is the Mattabesset trunk line. Our original plans was this slope came and kind of bend into the west. We had a fairly good sized retaining wall from about here all the way up to this area. We're eliminating that retaining wall, and we had a stormwater management area at the bottom of the slope. And what we were doing is to change that from a depression above ground stormwater management area to a below ground storm check or storm tech using the MC 4500 chambers. This would probably be, it's not going to be all the way at the top of the slope because of the size. It would be buried and set into the slope. And as I said a minute ago, we'd eliminate a lot of retaining wall along here, but we would still have retaining wall along these units here and a retaining wall up over in this area as well. And additionally, with the raising of the site, the entrance into phase 5 is a new retaining wall along both sides here. This retaining wall would probably be in the neighborhood of anywhere from 4 to 8 feet tall. The retaining wall along this area, I believe, I can, are you seeing a new plan?
Yes, we are. Or we
Okay.
were. Now we aren't.
All right, I think it just needs to catch up.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, they're loading. You can see them
Okay, here we
slowly
go.
loading.
This is the development plan, the grading plan. The retaining wall would run along this area and retaining wall up along the property line here and a retaining wall along the entrance coming in from phase 3. The buildings all will be raised accordingly. The utilities all raised accordingly as well, depending on the change. And we're not changing any of the unit counts. We're not changing any of the limits of disturbance, remains the same. The one thing that is changing for the better is the amount of blasting. The blasting originally, I believe, was about 2.5 acres of blasting. We're down to probably about 1 acre of blasting now with the raising of the site. Really, that's it in a nutshell. I'm here to answer questions. So is Jeff.
So this is Commissioner Miller.
One other item that will have to change is this area in here is the is where the meter station is for the sewer. We will just need to move the electrical meter for that. We don't have to move the station or anything. Just the electrical meter needs to be moved about 20 feet.
So John, this is Commissioner Miller. I had a couple questions. The first one, and this is a very complicated diagram to me. It's really hard to see it when it's like 5 by 5, but what does this do to your whole drainage plan and all that kind of stuff? I mean, does it need to be totally re-engineered? And second question would be is if you're raising everything, does that impact on the eastern side the prospects of erosion and what level of erosion control you're going to have going down into the Berlin property?
Good question. We will need to have erosion, and it is shown up on one of our plans. Erosion control that would have to be maintained throughout the project and until the slope is seeded and established. They will need to, it's going to be a project, well, it's a good sized project anyway, but they will need to be removing fill and then, you know, backfilling it and compacting it in lifts, you know, to make sure we have a good stable slope along in this area. Your other question with regards to drainage, really the drainage was just lifted up. And it will still flow. It flows basically to three places. It would flow into this stormwater management area, which just has a higher slope on the north side. It would flow, this section would flow down to the established detention basins that were built, gosh, I'm thinking that's 6-7 years ago, that are established now. They've been there, they're working, they're functioning properly. You can see these outlets here will have to be installed. And then for the area further to the north is going into this into the proposed storm tech chamber system, and then flowing out.
So this area is lower than all the other phases. There's no potential impact for flow back into the other phases.
Correct. Yes, this is all the lower. Just so you, sorry, I didn't mean to hit the button there. This is an existing detention basin that services phase 2.
Okay.
This will actually probably be on the higher side. And really what it's doing is there's an outlet structure that's the overflow goes in, and actually it's recharging this existing wetlands pocket that's right here. This is an existing wetland pocket here. And what we're looking to do is, I believe it shows off of the plan, but this detention basin here, I believe has an overflow that goes down and eventually recharge into here. And also this will be recharging as well.
Commissioner Rogan, just so I understand it, the way I'm hearing it is you're on the plans, you're raising it, but not so much as you're just not taking out as much material as you had originally planned. So it's not like you're actually bringing fill in to raise the whole project.
No, what we're trying to utilize is the fill that's there, and some anticipated fill that we think will be coming over from phase 4, which is
Basically to the south on the plans.
right. I'll just, which is, did you get a new plan pop up?
Yep, the green, the one with all the green. Yep.
Yep. Yeah. This is the last section or this is the current section that's under construction. And maybe Mark or Jeff can speak to how many more units are left. I believe there's only a few units that are not spoken for, that are not either built, sold, and people are living in them under contract or under some form of construction. So really, they're just about built out, and this is the last area that they would like to get going on. Mark or Jeff, can you speak to how many units you have left on phase 4?
Well, to build, we have around 8 or so to build, but only 2 are unspoken for. The rest are all under contract.
So
we're pretty much sold out almost in the entire development. Out of all, we have maybe 4 units. We have 1 here. We have 1 up there. We have 1 in phase 1, 1 in phase 3, and the 2 that are in phase 4. Otherwise, we have no product. And yes, all these other phases are a much higher elevation than phase 5.
So John, this is Commissioner Miller again. So just so I understand, I want to understand. I actually took a quick ride down there today, but it was kind of difficult to figure out everything. But if I'm interpreting it correctly, you basically were using the Phase 5 area as staging for all the fill that you were taking out of the other areas. Is that correct? And that's really material that you would have to move off site if you stayed with the current plan, and you just want to redistribute a lot of that to that Phase 5 site.
Yes, correct.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
This Commissioner Zigma, in the back where that new retaining
Tim, move forward to the microphone, please.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Only because we can't hear you. Sorry.
No problem. Mic on this thing, iPad is too small. The new retaining system, underground retaining system, behind that slope going to the Berlin property, on this map looks like very, very close lines. That looks more than a 2-to-1 slope, or is it?
Rich, do you know what that is? Is it a 3-to-1, or I think it's a 3-to-1, isn't it?
It's 2-to-1 slope, and it has.
No, it's 2-to-1. Okay.
Yes. Sorry, this is Rich Reynolds, LRC Group. Yeah, it's a 2-to-1 slope. It'll have netting and a fabric on the slope to help stabilize the slope during construction and minimize the amount of erosion potential on that slope.
So when you secure that slope, are you going to be securing it with something like the state does on the highway with the plastic in it and it's like roll out grass? I forgot what you call it.
That is correct. Yes. Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
There's a detail on the plans that show the fabric on detail sheets. Let me just scoot through the detail sheets real quick, and I can give you on detail sheet DN4. There is an erosion control blanket installation detail that will be used on the slopes, and there's a note that says that blanket will need to be required on slopes 3-on-1 or greater. So that'll be used during construction to, once the slope is stabilized, or not stabilized, but once constructed, it'll be used to help maintain the slope, minimize erosion.
And it's this detail that I'm circling now.
Okay.
I just want to ask you, John, so that whole Phase 5 is basically going to be raised approximately 7 feet. Is that correct?
Yes, in some areas it varies anywhere from 3 to 4 feet to 8 to 10 feet, but it averages the 7 feet.
Okay, now as far as going back to that end property where it slopes off, we know about the silt fencing, but what are you going to do to stabilize that permanently?
Well, it's a process where we have to wait for, not wait, but as soon as they construct it, is to get plantings on there. Plants first of all, to get seed plantings. We could put in some ground hugging vegetation that will spread out and help anchor the soil throughout.
But that's going to be like a 3-to-1 slope, right? It's going to be
it's pretty steep.
Are you going to have any kind of fencing on top to avoid, so that people who are living in those units just sit there and go, "Oh, what a wonderful starlit night!" Oh, and they topple. I mean, what are you going to do to stop the homeowners from hurting themselves?
We do propose a fence. I'm trying to zoom up.
That's gonna be like a state
If you
fence?
look, you see,
Or
I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you. What was that?
is it gonna be like a state fencing that's gonna be wrapped around the back, so? Or, I'm not sure what you guys have in mind.
I'm just looking to see what we propose. For example, if you look, I'm kind of tracing out, there's a line with an X through it. That's the proposed fence, and it goes all along along the slope, and then along the top of the retaining wall, all the way down.
I just wanna see where you are on that.
Here, I'll trace it again.
Yeah, if you can do your pointer thing, that'd be great. You got a yellow ball. I see the pointer. I see the pointer. Okay, I'll follow it. Go ahead.
Comes down. You see this that little X?
Yeah.
That's a line. That represents the proposed fence. Comes around, wrapped, comes down. Here it's along the top of the retaining wall, and it goes.
John, can you switch it to SP1? It's very clear on SP1
Oh,
where the fencing is. And this is Maureen speaking, I'm sorry. I don't know, so all these commissioners were not seated when the phase 5 came in last year for approval. But I believe that some of them may recall that there was conversation about the height of the retaining wall that you have lowered in this proposal. And regraded in that area, and the installation of that fence, if I recall correctly, and I didn't specifically look that up in the minutes, I'm sorry, I should have, that there was discussion with regard to fencing being installed to protect from the sloping, because the ravine below is quite a distant a lower elevation, much lower elevation down at the river and the town path. So on any of you on SP1 can probably more clearly see, there you can, it's the outside double dash, the dash line with the double dots being the property line, the line just to the left of that inside of it, maybe an inch on your screen, in perspective, is the line that is pointed out as the 6-foot high chain link fence.
And I'm kind of tracing it again.
And I would just, because I can't recall the specifics, from the staff standpoint, I would just recommend to the commission that if you had a discussion as to the height or materials of that fence at that time, and as a condition of that approval, that it just be carried over with this, because but I think that is, my recollection is that may be what was on those plans. That's
Yeah, I mean, chain link fence is chain link fence, but seeing that you're now going to be making this part of their background view, I would think you'd want to do something maybe like an estate fencing, black rail fence. There's different types to at least give it a more purposeful, or should I say, aesthetic view, as opposed to a chain link, which just looks like, I don't want to say prison or something, but.
Well, understand. Well, what we would like to maybe suggest is maybe when we get to that point, we'll make a couple suggestions to staff, and I'll talk with the owner, and we can look and see what we've done on other sections of the project. So maybe we can match. I know there's a fence, Jeff, behind phase. Was it phase 3? The house is on the right on phase 3. You remember what kind of fence that is, Jeff?
Yeah, it's a double, what do you call those, Mark? They're double boards, take that into
Like a rail fence?
rail fence,
Oh, okay.
and they're very pretty. Plus, what's nice about them is that they're PVC material, so they're lifetime.
And I think they make escape fencing the same way now. I mean, they do wonderful things with the PVC, and that's probably the better way to go because you have less maintenance on it. Now, the fact that this whole portion is going to be raised 7 feet, what does that do in aesthetics with combining with the rest of the development? So now are we going down a hill and then going up a hill, or how's that going to flow?
Well, we are still well below the units on phase 2. Okay, this is, do you see the color drawing? Is it up again?
The green slide is up again.
Okay, good.
And I'm
This
gonna
is phase-
mute us again for a minute because we get feedback when
Okay.
we're,
Okay, this is phase 2. And you actually, this is a down gradient. And then you would go in to phase 5. I mean, from this point to here, you're still probably 15 feet or more above the grade of phase 5. These houses in here actually are going to be pretty much shielded because this is all wooded in here. This light green that you see that I'm hitting in here is our existing wetlands, and this is a tree buffer that's to remain around it. So, and then phase 4, this area in here is probably about grade, maybe a little bit below grade of these, and then you come up probably from this point here up to here, is probably a 30 to 35 foot grade change going up. So all these houses will be looking, kind of looking down into phase 5. If they can, once the trees grow, start coming back in this area. This area is all open because it's storm drainage that serves phase 3 and 4, and actually will serve 5 as well. And this is a pocket of trees. This is all treed in here. This is a pretty substantial wooded area. And then it's all wooded over here, and it's all woods all around in here. So I think raising it 7 feet is, it's probably, if we didn't raise it and then you raise it, built it, and then, tear it down and raise it 7 feet, the people up on top of the hill probably wouldn't realize it or know that it was raised 7 feet because of the height differences in most areas.
So going back to the point that Mr. Miller has struck on earlier in the conversation regarding drainage on the site. So how are we anticipating the phase 5 will drain? Is it going to drain off to the bordering property with a slope? Or is it going to pour back into phase 2 and 3 or 4?
Well, it's designed to drain into this existing system here. There actually is a very small system depression in here, and into here, and then into the underground system here. Anything along the property line, excuse me, we graded, or we're proposing grading, so it would sheet flow into existing, into a proposed stormwater management area in here, and the same between the building or between the units here going into this stormwater management area. And then this area in here would go into this stormwater management area. And then the area up in here would eventually end up over in this area. It was still designed, we did go through our stormwater analysis to ensure that we still had a zero net runoff. Rich, can you add anything to that?
Excuse me, Maureen. Is Commissioner Woolman?
Hi, this is Maureen again. Okay.
This is Commissioner Woolman. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you tell me, I saw some notes in about our town engineer. What was their take on this? I saw they were still kind of resolving or looking at something.
So the town engineer, has not been able to provide his comments yet. So, on my comment sheet, I'm requesting that should the commission move forward with the application, that or decision rather, that if the town engineer has comments where there's some engineering, technical issue that needs to be addressed, that it be addressed to his satisfaction prior to us proceeding with any permitting.
Okay, thank you. I just thought that was critical because he's the expert.
Yeah,
This is John.
I spoke to him, I'm not sure whether I caught him yesterday or the day before, and he just had not had the opportunity to do the analysis that he felt he wanted to do to provide written comments. We've been kind of slamming at town hall, I'm sorry to say.
Okay.
But every
All right, thank
department
you.
has just got a lot.
Well, without his remarks, though, is this something that we should hold on to?
Again, that is of course the commission's decision to make. But I don't think with regard to technical comments, I think in the past, that to the satisfaction of the engineer, the town engineer has been a condition of approval on other projects. And the project did, and this amendment to the project did go through the Wetlands Commission already for the changes. And with the retention and wetland areas in that area of the project. John, can you point to where the wetlands are with your cursor? Do a little dance with it.
Yeah.
So
This is an existing wetland right in here. And then off site is this area in here.
So in my understanding from last year's review as well of going into phase 5, that wetlands had also done a very thorough job of reviewing the drainage because it was going to be impacting their what they have under their purview.
Terrific. Is there any other commissioners that have any comments or concerns regarding this amendment?
Yeah, this is Commissioner Zigmund again.
Yes,
I want to go
Tim.
back. I want to go back to that slope a little bit. The silt barrier.
Tim, could you move a little closer? I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. They showed us silt barriers they're going to use, but the final product of that bank is how you're going to stop the erosion on that bank, because some of that bank is a lot more than 2 to 1, and our regulations say 2 to 1. How you go stop the erosion off there? Are you going to use a fabric, plastic fabric type thing with the grass that grows through it to stabilize it, or how are you going to stabilize it? I worry about that bank coming down onto that Berlin property into the wetlands, a little bit below that.
Well, we're proposing this erosion control blanket be installed. It's required on any slopes that's greater than 3 to 1. And we did not design any slopes on this project greater than 2 to 1. So
this erosion is for during construction, right?
I'm sorry, what was your question?
This is during construction, this erosion plan. That's
correct.
During construction. After construction,
how
do you go stabilize that bank?
Well, we're proposing the this it will have to be monitored while the slope is seeded and becomes established. And during that, and then that whole period of time, the erosion control measures at the bottom of the slope will have to be maintained and watched. Like any slope that's constructed, yeah, it has to be given time for it to be seeded and for seeds to be established. And then putting a ground cover on it is a great idea. That would grow like something like a yew or something that would spread out, and the root system will go in and become established. It's something that it's not something that happens 2 months after the slope is done. It's something that needs to be monitored for a period of time until it's sloped, until it's established, the vegetation is established on the slope.
A slope that long and steep, just seeding surely not go do it, because that's going to wash out eventually. And I need, need some other means to hold that back.
Right, so we can look into some hydro seeding that has some reinforcement meshings and things like that in it to help stabilize that slope for sure.
Can you please identify who just spoke?
Sorry, it's Rich Reynolds from the LRC group.
Thanks, Rich.
Okay. The state uses a plastic backing for the grass for their steep banks on highways. I think that's probably a product that you want to use there to stabilize that bank forever.
Okay.
I have one question, if I may. When the project is completed, how steep of a slope will this be? I know we're talking about you raising the project 7 feet, but is that on top of the already slope that exists? And if so, what are we looking at the total depth or the length, the height of this slope?
Here, let me go.
I mean, from top to bottom, if I were standing at the edge where the fence is going to be, for maybe stop me from making a tumble.
Yeah, so it's roughly, Rich Reynolds, LRC group, the slope is roughly 20 feet tall.
20
from
feet.
the bottom to the top. Yeah, from the top to the bottom elevation, yeah.
Okay, and how?
Here's 20 feet here.
Okay, and how, is that pretty consistent along the whole edge of that phase 5? 20 feet? Or does it taper off?
Starting up at the north end, yes, it's 20 feet down to where the retaining wall starts. And then it'll taper off down over this area, down to the south. So this will be the least amount of slope at the south end, down near where the existing needle flow is for the sewer. And then it'll become gradually bigger as you move to the north in this area. Now, if you've been out there, that existing slope that's there now, I don't know if any of the commission members.
Hold on one sec. I got to mute because we're getting feedback again. Hold on.
Okay. If the commission members have been out to the site, and if you walked up to the edge of the slope that's there now, that top of slope is all the way out over here. So we're pushing it, that top of slope all the way out. That's probably what, 60 feet. So this whole area in here. So when they start building this slope, they're gonna, be able to put it up in lifts. I think we're probably talking, of 1 foot lifts and backfilling and tamping it all the way up, and then taking some of the fill that's over here and start pushing it out and backfilling it as you go. So
Sean Greeley again. I just want to know about, you said that there was a retaining wall that sort of picks up at the bottom of phase 5. You said that it pretty much goes at a 20-foot difference in elevation, the backside of that phase 5, but as you get closer to the phase 4, it kind of becomes a retaining wall that's there that picks up.
yeah,
Have you thought about, I'm not sure, I'm just trying to think of this 20-foot difference between, the high and the low. And I'm wondering if maybe a retaining wall, if that retaining wall continued on through the back of phase 5, if that might help you, sort of like a step down, if that might help with, I don't know, the plantings and stabilizing that slope. I'm not sure, but.
we did this in mind, kind of utilize as much material on site as possible. We did have a retaining wall out in our original submissions for phase 5 in this area. And I believe that retaining wall, if I'm not mistaken, Richard, Jeff, maybe you remember, was in the neighborhood of 18 feet to 20 feet tall for quite a distance. And we were able to utilize that area to put in quite a bit of material, and also and eliminate the need to build a retaining wall. Now, keep in mind, because of this retaining wall, it needs to be an engineered retaining wall with, with the footing and whatnot for the size of it and for the material that it's holding back. I mean, this is not a retaining wall block that's going to be a foot wide. They're going to be, 2 or 3 feet in size, in order to hold back to hold up the slope. Okay, starting at the south end, the retaining wall here is 7 feet tall right here. Here, it's 13 feet tall. Here it gets up to 16 feet. And it was jogged out here to protect this sanitary sewer manhole. 12, 14, this is 14 feet tall here, or 15 feet tall here, the retaining wall. And then it comes in, and then the slope will wrap around and come up. And this will be all slope coming down here in this area. This is the top of the slope where the chain link, or where the fence is proposed now.
This is Maureen. For anyone who's looking at their paper copies, he's on sheet UT1.
The numbers are way too small to read.
I have some questions.
Yes, go ahead, Diane.
For clarification, I think we're just trying to wrap our heads around the maximum slope in that northeast corner. And And so you're explaining that the average fill is going to be 7 feet with a maximum fill between 8 and 10 feet? Is the 8 and 10? Go ahead.
I'm sorry, what that is, it's 8 and 10 feet higher than what was originally approved.
I understand that.
Okay.
But, so, like you're using an average of 7 feet. So an average, we're going to have some areas that are more than 7 feet. You're saying 8 to 10 feet is the maximum, correct?
Correct.
And so, looking at the topography of, on the maps, is that 8 to 10 foot depth going to be in that northeast area?
Okay. Rich, can you maybe time on that? Because I'm trying to remember exactly where all that differences were.
I believe you are correct. There's going to be some additional fill in that area. Yes.
Okay. Is all of the fill already on site, or is there fill coming in from other areas for this proposal?
Most of the fill is on site and it's coming from the other phase of the site, phase 4, which is kind of, if you can see my cursor, this area down in here. This is phase 4 right here. And it would just come, actually, Jeff, if I'm not mistaken, they come down here and they use this existing access drive and dump over in here, or they come down and come down the road and go out the entrance driveway into phase 5 now. So no material is going to be coming onto the site from a town road, if that's what you're asking.
No fill is coming from off-site? So off this whole development, you're not getting fill from any other part of town?
No, the only question I have for Jeff or Mark is, I think there's enough topsoil on site. That would be the only thing. They do not need to take any fill from anywhere.
Correct.
From off-site, excuse me.
Mm-hmm. Well, because I remember last year.
The whole point of this was that we don't want to have to take out environmentally 100,000 yards plus of material off-site and go through all the roads and bring it all over the place. So we're trying to prevent that from happening, and that's why we are not bringing anything from outside. We have to deal with what we have.
Yeah, why wasn't, I just wanted to be clear if Phil was coming in or not. Because I do recall last year having lots of conversations about all the trucks that were going to be going off-site.
Yes.
So the 20 feet of slope, that's what exists now, correct?
Let me go to that plan. If I can read. Actually, it's probably going to, I think that slope is probably just a hair under 20 feet.
So if you're bringing in your 8 to 10 feet in that portion of that section, that phase, aren't you increasing the slope to 28 to 30 feet?
No, okay, I understand what you're saying. The existing slope that's there now is this area in here. That slope is going to be pushed out over this area. Now, the material, that 8 to 10 foot is a reference to what was the proposed final grade on the previous submissions of phase 5. That could have been, now keep in mind that was a cut. on this property before. In order for us to get down to the phase 5 that was approved last year and before, we were finding we were having, I think, in some areas, a 10-foot cut, maybe, or in some cases, I think a 20-foot cut to get down to the basements of these units. So what we're doing is we're taking what was proposed. Actually, if you can see my hands, if this was the existing grade now, what was proposed before was down here. And what we're doing, we're trying to take that grade and get it up to somewhere over here. And then take and push it out toward, I know you can't see me, I'm sorry, but pushing it out to the east to fill in this whole area as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so the finished project, that slope is estimated to be what? 20 feet?
This slope in here? Yes.
At the finished grade.
The finished grade, it's going to be, it's 60, it's going to be more, it's 2, 4, it looks like a 24 or 26 foot slope right here. From this point here to this point here, a 22-foot slope from here to here. The steep part of this slope is 2, 10, 20. It's about 15 feet here, 16 feet. So.
And so I understand your explanation and the rationalization, but what would that have been with the original approval?
This slope in here, I think this would have been a.
Well, there was like a 20-foot retaining wall there, right?
Yeah, there was. Yeah, I think there was a 20-foot retaining wall in this general area. Yeah.
So it was massive.
So what we tried to do was, when we say 10 feet, it might not have been I don't know why that pops up, a 10-foot slope additional in here. What we did, we picked up a lot of that, raised the slope here, but then because we knew we were going to have limitations on where the property line is, dealing with this slope. So this might only be 5 feet higher than what was originally proposed. But keep in mind, we had a retaining wall that was out over here that was 20 feet tall.
Mm-hmm. So in this proposal, the retaining wall is going away?
Yes.
In that area?
Shows up on.
I'm looking at UT1. So it looks like it goes east to the boundary at where the jog and the fence is. You mentioned a sewer line there or drainage?
Yeah, this line right here I'm tracing out is the existing sewer line that takes care of the whole development. Actually, no, I take that back. It takes care of most of phase 3, all of phase 4, and it will take care of all of phase 5. So this is an existing manhole. This is the existing manhole. This is the meter manhole. And this is an existing one at the bottom of the slope, and then it goes off through the town property and ties into the MDC sewer trunk line.
So John, this is Commissioner Miller, and I guess to follow on that, just help me if I understand this correctly. So in lieu of the retention wall, does that mean that essentially to make up that, to cover that drop, that you're grading that property downward all the way to the property line, bringing in fill and making that hill essentially, instead of having a sharp drop? So you're putting in a lot of fill in there and you're going to grade that to a 2-to-1 slope.
Correct.
Okay.
There's plenty of fill on site to make that happen. And I'm hoping they pound it down so much that we'll be using up more.
I just have another question.
Yep.
So in talking or addressing Commissioner Zigmont's questions regarding the retention of that slope area and taking time to establish plantings that would develop enough to actually be functional, how long exactly do you plan to be monitoring this area after all these units are sold?
Well, I would think the slope would be built long before all the units are sold, and be well underway being established. As for a timeline, Rich, do you remember what material? I mean, there's a mixture that we put out that's a combination of a fast growing, fast acting. I don't want to call it fast acting, but and then if you hydroseed it, it'll just grow that much faster just to get, any type of root system will start establishing a slope. And the yeah, we're proposing a ryegrass, a winter ryegrass, depending on the time of year when they get this established. And in fact, I believe the current wetlands approval has a date of October 1st or middle of September. Jeff, you might remember, of when all slope stabilization needs to be done, for the upcoming winter.
It's usually November. But yeah, to answer the question, I believe this slope will take around 7 months to 8 months to be fully established. And that's one of the first things we're doing in the project. So I believe well into the end of the first year, while we're still selling homes in the project, the slope should be fully established.
I don't think I have any more questions, but I, as a commissioner, would not be comfortable acting on this without comments from the engineer.
Okay. Do we have that in?
This is Commissioner Wallman, and I wholeheartedly agree with Diane.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay. All right, terrific. So am I hearing from either of you a motion or a motion to make a motion?
I'm not prepared to make a motion other than I think maybe we should continue this to the next meeting until we have comment from the engineer.
Okay, well, it sounds like a kind of a motion to me.
All right, I'll make a motion to continue.
Okay, and do we have a second?
Commissioner Wallman, second.
Commissioner Wallman seconds. Okay, further discussion, commissioners.
This Commissioner Zigmont, I would love to get the town engineer to make sure that's what that slope really is for a pitch. I see that it's 2-to-1 in some spots, but when you get north and come around that corner of the back buildings, those lines get very tight together, indicating to me that that's more than a 2-to-1 slope. So if the town engineer can look at that.
So we've had Diane, we've had Joan talking on mute for a second, so let me just, have her repeat that.
Okay, so we had the motion by Diane, the second by Mr. Woolman, and then, Mr. Zupot commented about the concern over the slope, and yes, I think that's probably what the directive of Diane's motion is toward, is that slope and securing it, and also just looking at the overall general, engineering comments on the site. I also asked Maureen if there's anything else that she wanted to put onto it at this point.
I wanted to, call to, in my comments, call to the commission's attention, the, Conservation Commission's, comments with regard to perhaps adding, greenery and trees along the, slope so that both for stabilization as well as, for the view shed. Because particularly with the open space down below. And I think I made one more note while I was listening. Oh, I wanted to just clarify that we do get an erosion control bond for projects that are open, and wanted to add to the comments, which I thought I had in here, but I ended up, I guess, missing it, but that they should include an additional, my comment should ask for any additional erosion control bonding as determined with the engineering division be submitted due to the modifications to the plan.
So Joan, this is Commissioner Miller. I'd just like to add that if we're going to continue it over, it would be very helpful to me if the applicant could come back with a little more specificity on exactly how he plans to do the erosion control. We talked about a number of things. We could hydro seed, we could do this, we could do that. I just like it specified exactly, what are we going to do so that we can get it approved into the minutes what they're going to do.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. Thank you, George. Anyone else, any other commissioners want to chime in? Okay, so do we need to take a vote on this? On the motion? All right, no,
May as well.
actually,
May as well to continue.
Okay, all right.
I mean, it's not a public hearing, but I think, especially as a formality, especially given the remote nature of the meetings, the more voting for clarity, the better. With regard to the motion to continue for additional information, George Miller.
Aye.
Diane Jorsey.
Aye.
Tim Zigma.
Aye.
Brian Rogan.
Aye.
Joan Veely.
Aye.
Steve Wallman.
Aye.
And Andrew Legnani.
Aye.
Terrific, so that passes, and then we'll see you at the next go round for planning and zoning, and thank you for participating, John and Jeff, and we will talk with you soon.
What's the date on the next meeting?
This is the 4th, so the next meeting's the 18th, 2 Thursdays from today.
Thank you. Do you think we'll have the comments from engineering in the next week or so?
I would hope so. We'll work on that.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Okay, bye-bye.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Okay, we're gonna move on to public hearings, but the good news is the public hearings, we're going to actually be continuing until March 18th. So item A and B, which addresses the mixed-use development at 404 Berlin Turnpike, and that's under public hearings, is going to be continued to March 18th. And also under old business, we have the same 2 items, So they also are gonna be continued to March 18th. So
Can I just add to
Yes,
that,
okay.
as was announced at the last meeting?
as announced at the last meeting, indeed. Okay, thank you. So with that, I look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Brian. Do we have a second?
Second.
Woo. All right, all right. Diane, I'll do it to you because I see your picture. All right, terrific. And so for the discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Joe,
Goodbye.
Commissioner
All
Walden.
right, good deal. And the time is not 8:47. Everyone have a good night. Be
You
safe.
too.
2 weeks.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
I've seen.
Maureen, didn't we want to,
Oh,
What?
Maureen?
yeah, I'm here but, well, is everyone still on so we can not adjourn yet?
Ye-
You see, I think, well, I got George, we got Diane, we got Steve Walden, we see Ella, Peter, Andrew. Tim's here. Okay, so I think we got everybody.
Everyone's
Yeah,
there.
I don't think we actually lost anyone.
Well, no, I think we lost.
I
I
don't
think
think-
we only lost the applicant. There were no other callers on that I remember seeing. As well, other than those listed, that are still listed in the applicant that just,
Okay, so we're
left the
ourselves
meeting.
to,
And really, this is only another discussion item. I added 2 Bs, and this was my second B item.
Did I mess up something?
No, I did, by
Oh.
only adding one of my Bs,
Oh,
because one of them should have been a C. I'm sorry.
oh,
We have discovered that the, excavation, regulations seem to be inconsistent with approvals and don't seem to have a conflict. I'm sorry, I'm regrouping on this because I just threw myself entirely off by that. So what I'm requesting is, that you direct me that we can look into the excavation section of the regulations. They right now call for 2-year renewals on excavation permits for a total of 6 years ever. And approvals that may prompt an excavation, such as a subdivision, are approved for 5 years plus an extension of 5 years. So while somebody may be allowed to develop a property in a subdivision or not bring their subdivision into construction for close to a 10-year period, if they got an excavation permit that expires after 6 years, then they can't do the work for the approved subdivision because those 2 numbers don't align with each other. And also whether or not the fact that the regulations call for a maximum of 3 excavation time periods, 2-year time periods. So for a total of 6 years ever is the way that regulation is written. So the analogy I used in the conversation I had was, if you got an excavation permit, if the regulations were the same in 1960 and someone got an excavation permit and 2 renewals at that time to last through 1966. And since then, we've had erosion, we've had roads go in adjacent, we've had, who knows what might happen in the area of life in general with regard to both technologies as well as climate and the ground itself, that in 2030, you can't get another excavation permit on that same piece of land. And just doesn't seem to make long-term sense. And also seems like it may be, and that's why we'd like to look into it a little more, may be a little bit undefensible if someone was to challenge that regulation. It may take that regulation into question. And so what I'd like to work on is an amendment to that regulation, and whether or not you'd like me to do that in order to tighten it up and make it align with what is allowed for a plan approval.
Okay, so let me just say, so if somebody gets an approval for development, they have a 5-year window in which to start the development or finish the development.
To get their permits and underway, actually finish, it's to finish the development,
so
but
my-
then there are extensions allowed by statute that extend that at this time another 5 years for most types of, there's tweaks, and in the past, we've seen where the statute gets modified when we have some major changes to the economy where they've allowed for different lengths of time because of markets.
Yeah, but no matter what.
This is Commissioner, Joan, this is Commissioner Woolman.
Yes, go
And
ahead, Steve.
Maureen and I kind of stumbled across this and found, the basis of it is that if you have a subdivision approved for 10 years, anything associated should be the same time frame for common sense. That shouldn't end less than the same amount of time you could approve the subdivision.
Right.
And that it's just basically like a common sense standpoint. So moving forward, it seems bizarre that one of the stipulations expires, but still the subdivision is active. So it didn't make much sense. And Maureen and I kind of caught this 2 or 3 days ago, and we just thought we'd just clear up the language so that it matches with the subdivision approval.
I agree with that.
Well, that's a good catch, Steve, so thank you for that. So I guess.
I'm just better to be lucky than good.
Huh?
Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good.
All right, is there any other commissioners have any feedback about that?
Makes sense to me.
Okay, so why don't we go ahead, do you just need a nod of approval?
I do.
Okay,
I
so
do.
that's all nod,
To
yeah.
put it in something that
Yeah, okay,
I can
Go
bring
ahead.
forward.
yes.
Okay, so everyone's saying yes, yes, yes. All right.
Yes, yes,
So we'll
yes.
go ahead and we'll address that and bring it into line. All right.
I'm sorry,
So
Steve, for that delay.
So that's the end of it. So now can we all go home or?
I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, that's all. Oh, Steve, oh my goodness gracious.
On me.
That's fine. We're gonna get in our car to drive home, and all you guys are already home, so you're one leg up on me. All right, so with that, good night, be safe. We'll see you in 2 weeks. If anyone has any questions or concerns, call me or call Maureen, okay? Actually.
All right.
All right, bye.
All right.
Thank
bye,
you.
guys.
Have a
Right.
good
Bye,
night.
everyone. Good
Stay
night.
safe.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye. That's it. It's a wrap.